On today's episode, we have Jessica who will take us through the relationship with ourselves, with our younger selves, how to really grow and heal through our childhood traumas and building that new relationship with ourselves and what it takes to be a corporate badass and both a life coach and how that truly fulfills her and makes her a better person, a team member for corporate, and how she's able to do both and merge both together. And she takes us through this amazing breath work on what it really took to develop great relationships and attract good relationships into her life. So listen up and welcome Jessica. Alrighty, we are here with Jessica. She is such a insightful, spiritual, like light of soul that I've met on social media, and we got to meet in person multiple times. And remind me how we met and how we just got to knowing each other.
Yeah, so we met through Jessica Rodela. I remember Jessica was like, "You need to meet her," and I was like, "Okay, it sounds like I do need to meet her." And it's so funny because I've had different conversations with mutual friends that we have, and they're like, "You need to get with Ruby. You both are so deep. Like, I would love to be a fly in the room and just listen to your conversation."
I had the same thing, and we have so many mutual friends, and I'm so happy Jessica brought us together, the Latina business coach, because a lot of the friends that I've been meeting too, she is such a connector that she brings the most quality people together, especially us strong Latinas that we need to rise together strong. And so I'm really happy that we have really good mutual friends and that we had the same conversation of like, you guys just need to meet together. So I'm really happy to start this conversation. So welcome. And to just begin, give you a little ease on how I want this to come out to our listeners and how I want this conversation to go is just super easy, super conversational, and I want to give you the platform to elevate you, to tell your story, to express what has gotten you to be where you're at. Because I know from the outside, a lot of people look at us and like, wow, she has it figured out. She looks so happy. She's amazing. We're inspirational, motivational, but at the end of the day, the things that got us to where we're at and what we show has been a journey on its own. So I really want to give you the platform, non-judgmental, say as much or as little as you want, and just be totally comfortable with sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's honestly an honor. I'm so excited for this conversation. I know I was looking forward to it. So thank you so much for wanting to have this conversation with me and allowing me to share my story.
Yeah. And so with that said, please take us as far or as recent as you want and tell us your story, a little bit about yourself, where you're at. And this conversation, I really want to focus and give our listeners a little insight on this self-love journey and what it takes to really dig inside your soul and your mind and become introspective and self-aware. And I think we have a lot of similarities in that. And I just want to dig right into that. So tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a proud Latina from immigrant parents. Both of my parents are from Chihuahua, Mexico. So I am a very proud Latina. For me, growing up, when I look back, my childhood, I had a good childhood, but don't get me wrong, I went through my traumas. At 11 years old, my dad moved away, and 6 months later, I had a brother that passed away. So for me, it was hit after hit. It seemed like for me, my parents did the best that they could to give me and the rest of us the best life that we could have. And so I am one of five. And so for me, it's, after my dad and my brother passed, after my dad left and my brother passing, it was just my mom. So my mom, doesn't know English. She knows very little, but she has always hustled. She has hustled. And it's always to give us a better future. My mom definitely taught me so much hard work and resilience. And I remember she would take us even when we were little to go clean houses. And for me, that's where I remember telling my mom, like, I don't want to do this. I hated cleaning houses. I hated it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
my mom's like, she was showing us that side of life so we can grow up. And she's like, I want you to grow up and have a house like this. I want you to grow up and make something of yourself. So I'm very appreciative that she always put us to work. For me, at 15 years old, I started working, and I was a hustler because I learned that from my mom and dad. And so for me, all of the trauma that I went through all my life, us Latinos, we shove it all down. We have to be strong and move forward. Ser fuerte y seguir adelante. What happens is that everything we just keep bottled up, and there's one point in your life where it just explodes. For me, I was relying on food. So I always say, so even though I have siblings, we all went through the same experience, but each one of us had essentially a different reaction to the trauma. So we all had our own experience. And for me, it was relying on food. I was a binge eater. At 18 years old, I remember I got a trainer. I was on an HCG diet. So I did extreme diets. I hated myself. And when I say hate, I hated myself. I was that person that would look in the mirror and I would criticize every inch of my body. It would be to the point where I would pinch, like I would literally grab my tummy and I would pinch so hard that I would leave bruises on myself.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a very dark time. For me, I was in a very severe depression where it's just crazy. And just thinking back at those moments, like I even get a knot in my throat because I remember not wanting to live, not seeing a sense of purpose. But I remember saying, I was such a people pleaser that I was like, I can't do this to mom. She already lost one kid. She can't lose another.
Yeah. And I think that's how a lot of us growing with a single mother, I can relate, whereas like, I don't want to give her any more problems from me because she already has a lot. And maybe other siblings are a lot more troublemakers than we are. And so we suppress and we don't get the attention. Usually in school or in the household, it's the one that gets attention, the one that's making the most trouble. And so we suppress it and we don't get the attention. And so it does lead us to finding attention elsewhere. And it could lead into a lot of the trauma or the addictions that we fall into. Where would you say was your first, now retrospectively looking at it, of your whole journey with your relationship with food, where would you say was the first sign of you going down that road of the self-hatred with your body and that conversation of not liking who you saw in the mirror?
I would say it was pretty early on. So I would say it was in my early childhood years. I would say before 10 years old. And the thing is, I think the reason why that developed is that comparison, and even in the Latino culture, we're like, oh, look at so-and-so, they look so cute. Or like, the nickname gordita, like little do you know that like that subconsciously is like telling you like, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat. And that's
so true.
Whereas
it's supposed to be de cariño, right? Those nicknames. And then subconsciously, you develop like, it could be like pecosa or flaquita, skinny bones, like whatever those nicknames develop, those actually are it's a message that you develop as you grow up and you're like, is that who I really am?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And for me, I think that's why I was like essentially chubby my entire life, but I never got bullied or anything. There was, of course, comments that hurt me and that I completely blocked. And once I was going through my healing journey, I was like, oh, I remember this. This really triggered me. And it was in my subconscious where I was like, wow, it was sitting there. And this is why some of the comments that I said to myself came from.
So how long would you say that relationship or that negative relationship early on, how long did it last until you had that mind switch of like, this is not who I want to be, or like, let me change that relationship with myself?
I would say about 6-7 years ago. And that's when I first started like getting out of my depression, really looking for like helping myself, getting better. So really healing. And that's when it was essentially, I was going through autopilot. I was living my life through the motions, and I was sick of it. I'm like, this isn't life. I'm not living. Like, I need to make a change. And so I decided, like, it's time to get up. It's time to do something.
How hard was it to get out of that, and how long was it until was it an easy switch? It wasn't an overnight where like, all right, let's switch, let's do this, I'm seeing progress, or how much of a challenge was that?
Oh gosh, it was so challenging, so challenging. And I still say, like, I'm human. I'm still working on me. I'm still evolving, and I still get through those funks. People say, Jess, do you ever get into those funks? Yes, I do. And sometimes I feel that depression too. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't. I had to face my demons, and there was days I wanted to give up. There was absolutely days I wanted to give up. But you have to, your why and your vision, that is what's going to drive you.
So what was the first thing that you grasp as a coping mechanism, as these tools and resources to help you get out of it? Was it something external that was maybe therapy or professional help, or was it a balance of internal as well, like more of your mindset and your own motivation and self-will?
Yeah, so I did do a lot of counseling. In my early 20s, I did do a lot of counseling, but I never realized the difference. Like, for me, it was just more of like going back to the situations and reliving them. And I'm like, okay, when are we going to move on from them? Like, I was just kind of tired of it. So I had to go back and really go mentally. So I honestly, here's how I started. I started listening to podcasts. I started reading books. I started educating myself, and I wasn't afraid to ask for help. So that is my tip number one, is definitely do not be afraid to ask for help.
It's such a vulnerable state to ask for help. Tell me how you gain that courage in asking for help, because it's almost like an embarrassment to admit. The first step is accepting and admitting that, wow, there's something wrong with me, and then two, I'm asking for help. How do you change that from it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength?
We all start somewhere. And how it was my strength is, one, I would look back and I honestly, here was my mind process was, do I want to continue living my life the way I am? I know I'm not the only one going through this. I know there has to be someone out there to help me. And I remember there was a point where I was like, Mom, I'm so unhappy. And my mom even tells me to this day, like, Jess, like, I remember when you would just lock yourself in your room and just cry and cry and cry. And she's like,
did you know why? When you were going through those moments, did you pinpoint why? Because a lot of people don't even know why they're feeling that way.
I honestly didn't. I didn't. Now that I look back, I know exactly why. I had so much suppressed trauma that I didn't really release. But at that moment, I didn't. So if you're going through this right now, just know it feels like dark. I know it feels like darkness. I know it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But let me tell you, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You can get up and keep going. And honestly, it just takes one step. Honestly, asking for help, it is very vulnerable, so vulnerable. But once you start speaking your truth and speaking how you're feeling, trust me, you will realize that you're not alone. There's other people that are going through the same thing. And I know for me, if someone says just help, I will gladly help. And so trust me, there's always helping hands out there.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of us go through these challenges, so we're able to give others that voice and so they can relate, right? And so as soon as we see people, we see ourselves in them. I'm going through, let's just say, depression or that low confidence, and we see it and we're like, I know exactly what you're going through. And I think it's a gift from the universe of us going through these challenges and getting through it, so we're able to help others.
I completely agree.
So when you decided to look inward, what would you say was the scariest part about yourself that you knew, and how deep did you have to go, and how scary was that? Because I've done it myself, and there's some scary truths to the trauma, and it goes even back to your childhood traumas. It's like, oh, that's why I'm dependent on guys, because I had abandonment issues because my father left me. Those types of conversations, those are really hard conversations with yourself. So how do you maneuver that and understand and ask those questions to yourself?
Yeah, to ask it to yourself, honestly, it isn't easy. So for me, what really helped me is I had a lot of mentors, a lot of mentors, a lot of coaches, because I realized I did a lot of self-learning at the beginning, but I knew like for me to go to the next level, for me to dig deeper, I need help. Because honestly, just think about it like this. You're not going to ask yourself those questions that are going to dig deep because it's going to hit something.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, when even working with my clients, I'm like, well, I know I'm going to trigger you, but when I trigger you, you let me know. But it's because I'm getting deep and I'm asking you that question that's pissing you off because it's a trigger that you're not ready to face. But it's like, let's face it together. And so for me, it was definitely getting a mentor. And when they started going deep and asking me these questions, I was like, it's just that like the ego is the number one thing,
You get defensive, right? And it's like, no, that's not wrong about myself, but that's true. Like the more trigger you are, the more you should really focus and spotlight those triggers to really work through them.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you said, it's especially like for me too, like I had those abandonment issues. Like, for me, it's committed relationships. When a man wanted to be committed, I would run.
Yes.
I need to leave them before they leave me.
You're so right. I subconsciously had this rule with myself that I didn't know, that I can't see a guy more than 3 times, because that for me is commitment. It's like, wow, they're trying to get serious. I'm not ready for that. But you know what? I stopped counting. I stopped adding a timeline. But that's true when you start seeing, again, analyzing your behaviors. Why am I doing that? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Or like, why do I fear commitment? And so like, again, those questions.
Yeah. And one exercise that helped me a lot too was go back to your exes. Like think about your ex, like write their name down and what did you learn from them? So for me, every person that walks into your life is teaching you something.
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah.
That's a really good line.
Everyone that walks into your life is here to teach you something.
Yes.
So for me, it's like, okay, what were these men teaching me? And honestly, once I went through it, I was like, holy shit, like I was attracting emotionally unavailable men because I was emotionally unavailable. So it was essentially my mirror. So they were there to teach me that. So if you're really interested in doing this, like jot down notes, like, your exes and what you learned from them. Mm-hmm. And really you have to go back and forgive each and every relationship. Like you have to forgive them because they served a purpose in your life. They were there to teach you something. And that is what led you to this current moment.
I love that. And even if those people, whether it's a loved one, an ex, or a friendship that went wrong, a business partnership that went wrong, going back and reflecting and analyzing and what did this person teach me about this scenario, but also forgiving. I love how you said like forgiving, even though they might never apologize. That's a huge thing where a lot of us need closures. Like the brain acts as I need a reason why this happened so I can move on. But you could actually move on yourself by forgiving without expecting an apology.
Exactly. And think about it like this. You're doing the forgiveness for yourself, not for them.
Yes. Yes. And so tell me how important it is to rebuild a relationship with your younger self.
Oh, it's so important. So I did a lot of inner child work, and it's honestly my favorite because our inner child is still within us. She's older and she's wiser because she's been there since the beginning. So for me, I always like to connect back to my inner child and say like, what do you need from me right now? How can I love you more? Because essentially we're reparenting our inner child. Our parents did the best that they could based on what they knew. Remember, there's no parent manual like, hey, here's how you raise your child. No. So our parents did the best they could. So sometimes, like, for example, in my situation, my mom worked so hard that she wanted to give us the best life. But in all reality, all I wanted was love and connection and affection from her. And so that is one thing that it's like, I have to go back to my inner child and just give her so much love, so much affection. And it's like, we're reparenting that inner child.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And we also have to forgive our parents for only knowing what they knew and what with the resources they had. And again, same scenario with me is like, I just wanted the time and the love. And early on, you get to see what love is through the relationship with your parents and your loved ones around there. And when we don't have it, it's like, I never had that. So I'm craving that in my adulthood, and therefore I'm getting these relationships and attracting these relationships the wrong way because that is the only way I saw love. And so again, parenting your inner child That is huge. So what would you say, what is your relationship now with yourself and with food and your body and again with your younger self? What does that relationship look like right now?
Yeah. So my relationship, so with food, for example, it's better. It's better than it was before. But remember, I'm human. I make mistakes. Those old habits still come up, and it's like I have to use my knowledge where I'm at, but I'm still getting to know my body. I use a lot of fat burners for many, many years, almost a decade. And I really messed up my body. So I'm now in the phase of relearning my body, like what's reacting good, what's not reacting good, and essentially getting that feedback from my body. The biggest thing is that food is fuel. If I eat good, I feel good. If I eat like crap, I'm going to feel like crap.
Yeah.
I no longer use it as numbing or an addictive thing. And in relation to my body, it's so crazy because I had body dysmorphia. So back in 2013, I was at 135 pounds, like 19% body fat. And I saw myself at my heaviest, which was 200 pounds. And I hated my body. I hated every part of it. And now it's like, I'm definitely not 135 pounds, but I love my body. I'm embracing my curves and I love my body in this current moment. I can still have goals and say, hey, I still want to, have lean muscle mass. I still want to, I no longer target a weight. I target more of like, I want to be stronger. I want to lift heavier, whatever it may be. I want to build my endurance. You can still have that goal, but you can still be present and enjoy your body in the current moment. I always say enjoy the journey because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I love that mindset. And back on relationships, I have this relationship series with my sister, and now that I've been single for a while, and I talk to all these female friends and their challenges with relationships, and also dating and getting to know these guys and about their exes and their journey and their single journey. I get really deep with these people that I go on a date, and I just want to truly get to know this person for who they are. One of the common questions that I hear over and over, regardless of their age and regardless of how long they've been single or not, is they tend to lose themselves in a relationship. So tell me if you experience that, or if you hear that, or if that's a commonality with your single friends. How do you not lose yourself in a relationship again? And how does that happen?
Yeah. So like the phrase, I can't wait to meet my other half. That like irks me. And the reason why is because, it's like, I'm a whole person and I want a whole person. I don't want half of you because I don't want to fulfill you. So for me, it's the way you don't lose yourself is by focusing on you, continuing to have your alone time. So for me, like in a relationship, you want your partner to come in at 100 and you want to come in at 100. There's of course going to be days where, you're having a bad day and you're coming in at 75% and you just need that, that bit of fulfillment. That's fine. There's compromise there. But overall, like they are not in charge of your happiness. You are. So for me, it's always go have your alone time, have your separate time and respect that. Let your partner have their own time. You have your own time and really use that time to fulfill and like fill your cup. So it's really that time for you to reflect, like, what do I need in this current moment? Like, how am I currently feeling? Really just checking in with yourself and giving yourself what you need. Because think about it like this. I always tell my clients this, like in a case where like, for me, it's like, I want someone that's, a whole just as I am, because I've put in a lot of work for myself.
Yeah.
And so I want him to come in 100% as well. But I don't, for example, in past relationships, it was at like, hey, if you don't do this, I'm going to leave. And it's like, up over your head. And it's like, no. And now it's like in a relationship, in a healthy relationship, they won't hold that over you because you're like, okay, but I love you, but you don't fulfill that within me. You don't fulfill that need. I love you. And if you leave, I will grieve you. But at the end of the day, I have to fulfill that within myself.
Yeah.
And not dependent on someone else.
And that's the same thing with becoming dependent, or that phrase of like, let me do my own thing and you do your own thing to fulfill each other and then come back together as a whole. That sounds really scary for even long-term relationships, or it feels almost like if you're not secure within your own relationship and your own self, it seems like I don't know, can I trust you? Like, what are you going to go do? It's almost like an attachment issue. Like, what are you going to go do without me? Are you going to have more fun than me? Like, how do you make sure there's no attachment or codependency in a relationship, and you're both equally developing and growing yourselves? So then when you come together, it's a whole, and you're two wholes coming together and developing that internal happiness.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me is asking, like, that trust. That's the biggest thing. Like, what in me is not trusting this individual? What is it within me that's being triggered? Like, where did that start from? So 9 times out of 10, it was our childhood. So we need to go back and be like, okay, where did I lose the sense of trust? Do I, one, like, is it within my inner child, or two, is it something within me that I don't even trust myself? So essentially, like I said previously, each person is here to teach us something. Yes. So if there's something where like it's a trust or attachment thing, it's like, wait a second, why am I so attached to this? Why are they feeding this need? What is it that I'm not doing for myself that I need to do for me to fulfill that need? So for example, like you said, it's that the trust or the love, like, okay, like I know he loves me, but do I love myself? Like, yeah. I fully love and trust him. I know his love language. He shows me with his love language, X, Y, and Z. Like, it's like, look, for us, we live so much in our mind that our mind is very deceiving. Drop into your body and your body will tell you what's best. And always say like, what do I need right now? Why am I not trusting this person? And really, honestly, it's a reflection within ourselves.
Yes. I love that, because it always stems from ourselves. It's like, what is it that I'm not trusting? Because it's not what they're doing. And sometimes, yes, we do have to look at the behaviors, and that's how you're able to tell. But it's usually like, okay, why do I feel this way? So with that, how do you trust your gut and your intuition, and how are you good at that right now? How do you feel about that and trusting your gut intuition? Because for me, I'm practicing and I'm developing a strong intuition, but I'm still resisting it.
Yeah. I'm with you, girl. I am so with you. So for me, I'm so analytical and I'm so in my mind that when my gut would tell me things, I'd be like, nope. Like my head knows best. So now I'm in the process of really like, okay, I need to stop being in my head. Like we can go through all of these situations in our mind. Like he's going to go do this. He's going to go do that. But like you said, once we see behaviors, and truly when you're in a good place and when you're so healed, it's like you'll attract the same thing. The universe will give you that. And so it's like, for me in the past, I was attracting those emotionally unavailable men, those cheaters, all of that of how I was, how my energy was. Now that my energy is better, it's like the men I'm attracting are completely different. And it's like, now I'm like, it's so different. It's such a different feeling.
I'm with you 100%. You can tell the type of people and relationships you're attracting by the state energetically of where you're at. So you talked a lot about energy and attracting and manifesting. Like, tell me how you got to that point and how it's becoming a lot more aligning with both your mindset, your energy, your intuition. Like, how do you get to that level, and how do we tell our listeners how they can achieve that?
It wasn't easy. It was not easy. So one of the things is going back to your limiting beliefs. What are your limiting beliefs, and really facing them? Another thing too is healing. Go back within yourself and start healing all your trauma. Really, for example, if you like all of your exes that you're like, nope, and you just moved on to the next without really feeling that breakup, go back and feel that breakup, because that breakup and those feelings are still sitting there, and you need to feel them and release them. Because if not, that other person's energy is really you bring it with you and essentially bringing it into another relationship. So it's, it's like how you start building it is by it's like relearning, reparenting, redoing it all. And so for me, it was not only healing, but it was also inner child work. It was really like my limiting beliefs, like, oh, there's no such thing as love, and
Mm.
there's no men around. But it's like, there's so many men. There's so
Yeah,
many good
yeah.
quality men. I've just been attracting the wrong men because of my energy. So it's really shifting your energy to, how do you shift your energy? And it's easy. It's honestly so easy. Turn on a good song that you like to dance to and just have a dance party. Like your vibration will switch in an instant. And again, get out of your mind and drop into your body. So a lot of the listeners are probably like, Jessica, what do you mean get out of your mind and drop into your body? I mean, really, like, get out of your head. And like, dropping into your body is doing breath work, meditation, really things to get you out of your mind. Because at the end of the day, all of these situations that are running through your mind will probably not even happen. And it's like, when you drop into your body and like, like, here's a good exercise. Close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and then really just drop into your body. Where in my body do I feel safe? And where in my body do I feel unsafe? And asking those questions and starting to get to know your body. Don't have an answer from your head, but have it more from in your body. Another exercise I like is 10 breaths. So doing a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth 10 times, and then holding the last one as long as you can, and then releasing. It's a total game changer.
Well, I really hope everybody's taking notes or rewinding on this, because you just gave really tactical advice on how to even start. Because I know once we feel it and we're in it, and we can just say like, drop into your body, manifest it, elevate your energy. Like, that is so abstract to a lot of people that don't even know how to get there. So thank you for giving us those exercises. And again, that goes against with connection of feeling your intuition and your gut feeling. Like, that seems so abstract. Is like, how do you feel that? What's that feeling like? And again, getting out of your head and dropping into your body and really listening to your body. Like, how does this feel? What is this telling you? Because at the end of the day, that is the decisions that will lead us closer to the right path. Is when we don't have an answer or reason, we just know. Like, and looking back at a lot of relationships and even with exes, like, wow, I remember when my gut was screaming at me and I did not listen to it. So how do you surrender? What is another best way to truly surrender to where you're supposed to go, where I love to say, like, our soul's contract is supposed to be doing on this universe? Like, how do you surrender and allow your gut and like where you're supposed to go, whether you encounter a challenging decision or another hardship or another heartbreak? Like, how do you allow your path? How do you allow yourself to be on that path?
I honestly, how I surrender now is just letting go. You have to let go. Like they say, let go and let God. So depending on what your faith is, and if you believe in God, universe, source, it's really having faith and just saying like, I know I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. And for me, it's don't stress about the future. Don't worry about the past. Be in this present moment. Be so present, because you will not get this moment ever again. And for me, it's been a lot of so much spiritual healing. And it's been so beautiful. And once you start tuning into your body and start tuning into, honestly, like, how does my heart feel right now? Like, how does love feel within my body? It's so beautiful, because it's so hard to explain once you feel it.
I felt that pause. I felt it. And visually, like, I will put this visually out there too. I can tell that energy where you just feel it and you're like, this is how you do it. But honestly, again, like, you sharing your type of energy is channeling outside on this physical world. And before we get so spiritually for our listeners, how do you allow more gratitude into your life, and how do you practice that?
Every day I wake up and I'm so grateful for what I have. As little as it may be, I love Louise Hay, and she always talks about just being so grateful for like your plumbing, your electricity, every single little thing. And looking back and remembering my childhood when like my parents were struggling and where we came from, I'm like, dang,
Yeah.
I'm grateful for those moments. And I'm even more grateful now for where I am today and everything that I've survived. Wake up, and before you get out of your bed, I want you to just really just open your eyes and then just say like, this is what I'm so thankful for, and just always living in gratitude, because blessings and abundance can't come in if you're not grateful for what you have right now.
Yeah, yeah. And I know I see you and that connection on social media, and I see a lot of relationships being formed on social media, and finally, hopefully, in person and through Zoom and having those connections. But I do agree that you attract who you become. So this is a really hard question, and I know we're working on it, but as from what I can see, you're just such a huge light of inspiration, and how you carry yourself even on social media and in person, and you're the same person. So how do you become your most authentic self?
You have to really honestly get to know your true self. And that's, stop being a people pleaser, stop being a perfectionist. I was such a people pleaser. I was such a perfectionist. I would wear different masks with different people that I would hang out with. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm me. You like me? Cool. If you don't, cool. It's not affecting me. I know it's not towards me. If our energy doesn't vibe, it doesn't vibe. I'm not going to force it. And honestly, it's get to know your true raw self. Like, honestly, dig deep. Like, take off the mask. Stop living your life based on what society says, on what your parents wanted for you, what your friends wanted for you. Like, you live your life on your terms. Like, what do you really want? What really sets your soul on fire? That is what you go after. And for me, I was living my life on other people's terms. I was, they said, do this. I went to go do it. They said, and for me, I had my whole life mapped out, and life didn't work out that way. Like they say, we have a plan, but God, the universe, another life.
Yeah.
And that was another reason for my depression. And it's like, just because you had a plan, it's like, rewrite the plan. Like, okay, things didn't go as expected. It's the detour. Where am I being redirected to?
Hit it with the plot twist, right? So on that note, because I was the same way. I had my life planned out 5, 10, 20 years ahead, and I felt so secure, and I was top of the world, confident. This is how I'm going to do things. This is how much money I'm going to make, blah, blah, blah. How do you deal with uncertainty when, especially during this time, like, COVID hit, nobody could have planned for that. And we each have our own unplanned things that happen. How do you deal with uncertainty, and how do you move forward from the plans that you thought you had planned out?
How I do that is I changed my story to uncertainty. I used to fear uncertainty, like the unknown. And now I'm like, ooh, what am I going to learn? What's coming? Like, now it's more excitement. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm excited for what's to come. So I changed my story behind it. And now it's like, for me, I've gotten to the place where I'm like, right now, I feel very safe, secure, very certain. And now I'm like, all right, Jess, it's time to switch things up. So I'm already looking at my next chapter, my next challenge, my next project. I don't like to stay comfortable, because when I stay comfortable, there's no growth. So I always say, look for your next challenge. Like, uncertainty, change your story to it. Change your story behind uncertainty. And I would feel into your body, why does uncertainty scare you? If you could give that uncertain voice an actual voice to speak, what would it say to you? And for me, it was just like, you're going to fail. And honestly, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to fall straight on your butt. Who cares? You get back up. There's always, everything is figure outable. Everything is.
Yes. So how do you go after those risks and uncertainty when it feels so scary and you're just used to being on the comfort zone? Like, how do you seek that out?
Feel the fear and then go for it. That's what I do. That's exactly what I do. For me, it's for any time, like, I remember, so going for positions that I'm like, I'm not qualified for this. I'm not whatever, but I would always go for it. And
I love it.
Even if it was a no, it was like redirecting, but it got my eye. Like, people started seeing me and they're like, ooh, she's ambitious. She wants to go places. And it's like, and now it's like, give me feedback. How was my interview? I always seek that feedback. I'm always continuing. Like, I always want to learn and grow. So for me, I'm always very humble, and I always say, hey, what can I work on? How can I improve? And truly, it's like, feel the fear and just go for it. You're never ever gonna feel ready. And I love Angie Lee, because she always says, ready is a lie. And it's so true.
Yeah, I love it. What do you get the most fulfillment? Because I know you work with a lot of people, and you do this work with people. What is your biggest fulfillment? And tell the audience what you do and how you get your biggest fulfillment. Because I know this is not the only thing you do, so you do it out of love.
Yeah, so I'm a corporate leader and I absolutely love my corporate job. So that is my full-time job, but my also other full-time job that I love is life coaching. And I want to eventually marry the two, but for me it's they both fuel me. I love the corporate hustle. I love, for me it's I've always loved it since I was so young, and I'm in healthcare and I love healthcare. I love the HR aspect of it, and for me it just fills my heart, and that feeds like my analytical brain, that feeds that side of my brain.
Yeah.
And then the life coaching feeds my soul. It feeds my soul when like connecting with people and going deep, because I've always loved going deep with people. And for me, that like both of them, I think, like for example, the life coaching, it feeds my feminine energy, and the corporate, it feeds my masculine energy. And before, I used to be so ashamed of being such a hustler and wanting, a good career and, continue to grow within my corporate career. And I was almost ashamed because everyone was saying like, just the stories behind the hustle and being in your masculine energy. I just have to learn how to balance it with my feminine. And now it's like, you can have it all. You can have it all.
I love that. I know so many corporate badasses out there that have their own side hustles. And what would be your advice for somebody that is scared to do something extra, where entrepreneurship feels very scary, or they have this limiting beliefs that they can't do it, or having to be ashamed of wanting to work in corporate and be a badass corporate leader? Like, how do you merge the two, and what's your advice to people that want to do both?
Yeah. So for those people that want to do a side hustle, try it. What's stopping you? What's the worst thing that can happen? You don't like it and then you stop doing it. It's all right. You can always reinvent yourself. You can always change directions. There's nothing set in stone. So try something out. And if it's not working for you, change it up. And that's exactly what I did. And I started finding my passion through my side hustle. And I realized that I started loving my corporate job more once I had my side hustle, because it brought me that perfect balance. And so for those people that love corporate, it's like, don't ever be ashamed, own it, show up as your badass self. And if you want to do the two, and how you marry the two is what fulfills you. For example, if your corporate job is stressing you out, it's like, find a side hustle that doesn't feel stressful. Find a side hustle that just really motivates you. So for me, I have a great balance between the two, and I have very set boundaries with both. For example, with my corporate job, I work from this time to this time, and I'm not going over. And same thing with my side
boundaries. Hustle. What you're talking about is boundaries on each.
Exactly. And same thing with my side hustle. I have I time block, and it's, I have me time, and honestly, you can do it. It just takes you taking the first step and just go for it.
Yeah. So I heard masculine and feminine energy. Yes. Tell me about how you balance that, both becoming who you are, successful in corporate, and then fueling your soul with something creative that you do, and nourishing and giving. And how do you attract, or how do you not intimidate men out there that you're dating, or whatever, your dating life is like? How do you balance it both, and how do you attract the right man that can appreciate both of you?
Yeah, how I balance the two, again, I was so in my masculine energy before, where I was like, work, and I had no boundaries whatsoever. So once I placed boundaries and really started, and I'm never afraid to try something new, even with my corporate job, or even within my side hustle. I'm never afraid, because I'm like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like, I know, okay, let's try something else. Like, it's nothing is set in stone, nothing. And if people say things, it's like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if it's fueling me, if it's fueling my passion, that's all that matters. when it comes to, dating, I'm going to be honest. It's different because I am very ambitious, and I've had relationships where men are like, you're just way too ambitious for me. But I know the right man that can handle that. And that's going to want to, not only I will have my empire, he will have his empire, and we can have our empire together. I know he'll walk into my life, and I feel totally confident with that because I know I'll attract that person. And for those women that are dating and that, you get that man that says, oh, well, you're doing too much or whatever it may be. If they love you and if they respect you and they really see you for who you are, they're going to be your number one supporter. They're going to be like, yes, you go for it. And so for me, that's what I'm looking for. And I'm not afraid when someone's like, oh, you're too ambitious. I'd be like, well, sorry, then you're not my cup of tea because this is who I am.
Exactly. I love that. And with the whole like attracting the right person, like I see you so confidently, both in person and online. And I meet a lot of women who say, I don't know how you are so confident. I have very low self-esteem. How do you think someone gets to grasp that self-confidence?
Yeah. So at first, I'm going to be completely honest. So here's a good example. In my corporate healthcare job, I was there for 6 years. At the first, every time I start somewhere, I am very observant, very quiet, because I like to just take everything in. I like to take it all in. And then I just start building my knowledge. And then that's where my confidence starts building. So then I left for a year and came back to the same organization. And I realized, like, okay, I'm starting over again because this is now a new division. I'm learning new things. My role is way different. And honestly, the first year I was just learning and taking as much as I could. And from there, I was like, let's go. I knew where I was speaking from. I knew my information, and I knew and I'm not afraid to say something wrong because someone will correct me. And if they correct me, I'm like, oh, thank you so much for that feedback. I appreciate it. And when you don't know something, it's like, you know what? I don't know that, but I'll research it for you and I'll get back to you. It's as easy as that. And so that's how just remember, we're always going to be a beginner at something. Build your knowledge towards it. And really, it's get uncomfortable. When you get uncomfortable, you'll come to a point where you feel comfortable. But when you do get comfortable, start getting uncomfortable again, because that's the way you grow.
Yeah, because either you proactively get uncomfortable, or the universe is going to come down and say, you're way too comfortable. Let me humble yourself, and let me get you uncomfortable so you learn and you grow. And that's how I feel challenges come into our lives. It's an opportunity for us to grow and learn from it, whether it's a situation or a relationship or a person or a completely new change. It's a way for us. It's almost like, it's a theater for the universe to see, like, let me see Jessica on the stage and how she's going to react to this uncomfortable situation, whether she puts herself there or I put her there. Like, let's see. But regardless, she's going to come out of it a whole new person, a better person. And from that, we get to serve the rest of the world with what we learned. And again, we get to help others go through that situation that we just learn how to get out of, and we gain those resources and tools and coping mechanisms to help us and others get out of that.
Exactly.
So what would you say to end it? What would you say? 2 more questions. Mm-hmm. What is something that you know for sure about yourself that you're so happy that you gained throughout this whole journey, that you're going to hold dear, that you're never going to let go of, whether you come into another challenge, whether another person comes into your life, or another situation, or another uncomfortable challenge comes into your life? What is something about yourself that you learned, that you gained, that you want to hold on to, that you know for sure?
Yeah, my strength. Definitely my strength. So no matter what life throws my way, I know that I will face it head on. I will absolutely face it head on, and I'll get shit done. Like, I'm not going to sit on it. I have such strength, such resilience, and I don't give up. So no matter how many times I fall, I will continue to get up. And that's the thing. It's like, that's my biggest message to each of you listening, is find that inner strength. It's within you. We all have it. And it's just making the decision of, yes, I'm doing this for me, and I'm going to continue to get up and just do it for you and no one else.
I love that. Your inner strength and it's always within you, and just from our conversation, both the inner child traumas that we get to reflect and change and improve on about ourselves, we also have those amazing qualities within us that we've developed through our childhood, and the great things, whether we got love or not the right type of love from our parents and our loved ones around us, we also got the great things about them, which is the work ethic, the resiliency. Look at you, you're so strong and resilient, and you got that from your mom. And whatever situation it was, like, let's grasp and hold on to the great things that we did learn, and let's change and improve on the things that we had to go through and that became traumatic.
Absolutely. And it's like, like I said at the beginning, our parents did the best that they could. And we just gained so much from them too. And for me, I know there's generational chains, and we need to break those generational chains. It's like our parents got it from their parents, and their parents got it from theirs. And, it continues. So it's going to be harder for us that want to do the work, because we are essentially healing from generations.
Yeah.
And it's like, take the good that you've learned and the things that you were like, hey, I want to change this, because I don't want to give this to my future children, and I don't want to pass this on. This is something that stops with me. And once you start healing it, and once you start reframing and changing the beliefs, or, it's just so beautiful. And it's something that, you're passing down. So don't be afraid to do the internal work and feel it for generations, and then pass down something new.
Exactly. And just like with that, we're almost the chosen ones, because during this time we are having to heal that generational trauma and take on the great things that we learned from that. But it's also, let's have compassion for ourselves, because we're doing a lot of work.
Yes, I agree.
So even though this year has been very different and challenging and great, what is next for you? What does the future look like for you? And how can you get the most positive out of it? And what are you excited for?
Oh, I'm excited for so much. So for me, I'm going to continue my corporate career. I'm going to continue to climb that corporate ladder. But my vision is to marry my life coaching skills with my corporate job. So how amazing would it be to start a board meeting and say, hey, before we start this board meeting, let's do some breath work. Let's really get into our bodies. And also to, like, when someone kind of objects, and, those people that just don't agree, and those, that person in that meeting that questions everything, it's like, okay, are you really questioning for the interest of the patient and the client, the member, whoever you may be working with? It's like, or is it something internally that's triggering you? Like, let's feel through this right now. So for me, I want to have like that dialogue. So there's no such thing as work-life balance. And I know that because seeing executives right now, they work so much and so many hours, but it's like, we can still, once we start healing from within, and once we start incorporating these life skills into everyday life, even work, it's like people will show up better and they want to perform better because they're feeling good. And so for me, that is my vision for not only corporate, but that would be my goal, to really spread that out through all of corporate America, where it's like, wow, you can really enjoy your corporate career, but you can really like heal within and not feel like you have to be at work 60, 70, 80 hours a week to really feel like you're accomplishing something.
I love and I really, really hope you continue on this mission, because that is so needed. And I did come from the corporate world, and everybody that is doing the internal work, the spiritual work that is doing something creative outside of corporate, I think that is such an asset to this new way of how to change and pivot. Just like COVID came into this year and said, let's change things around. Let's now, every single corporation and company is like, you guys are going to have to figure it out, because now you have to find ways to pivot and change and be okay with uncertainty. So for you to bring in what you've already learned on your own into something very uncomfortable, and again, having those people in the boardrooms that are used to being comfortable and doing it a certain way, and you're challenging them. I love that you love of challenges. And I think you are the one to say, what is it about it? Like, let's think about it and questioning it. And actually, instead of retracting and say, no, I'm just going to completely leave it, you're taking it on as a challenge and say, let's see it a different way and let's merge both together. So I love that. Jessica, where can people find you? I think you brought so much value to this conversation, and I appreciate you for being real and raw and honest. And I am so happy that we get to use this platform even during this time to share what we know, whether both in corporate, business, life, and spiritual, and like doing the inner work and everything that we talked about. So where can people find you?
So on Instagram at Jess Rodela, and it's JessRodela. And honestly, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. This was so much fun. And I feel like, seriously, energetically, like I needed this.
Oh, I love this. Every time I talk to anybody with this type of energy, is just like, let's continue to fill our cups and overfill our cups for everybody else so we can continue the cycle of sharing. And I'm just so grateful for you and your friendship online and offline. And I thank you so much. And thank you to all our mutual friends that got us together.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.